one. Welcome to the Game Professors Podcast, where the students have taken over and we profess our love and hate for all things video games. And as always, we're going to get into the lecture lowdown, where we give you a rundown of the main discussion points for today's course, along with some of the smaller announcements, or in this case this week, maybe a medium-sized announcement or two. So, we will be talking about Halo going multi-platform, some margins mandated by Microsoft, Amazon abandoning its new worlds in favor of layoffs, some new Xbox software philosophies, and the CS skin crash of 2025. With that aside, Heru, what do you have for us starting this week?
So we're going to start off on a note about Wolf Glick. For those who know him by his more popular YouTube name, WolfeyVGC. He is now permanently stepping away from in-person Pokemon events. Now, let's talk about the reasons why. So, first off, let's give some details, actually. He has roughly 2 million YouTube subscribers, and he announced this leave on the 23rd of this month, October. And
so basically this last week.
Yeah. And the reasons why. In 5 out of the last 7 tournaments during the 2024-2025 season, Glick experienced groping and non-consensual sexual touching during fan interactions. He also faced overwhelming stress from parasocial fan behavior that prevented him from being able to compete effectively and attending matches on time. Specifically, at the 2025 World Championship, over 10 people touched him inappropriately in one day, which caused him to just simply up and leave.
Oh, man. I mean, that's brutal for a guy that's considered some of the best in that scene. For them to give this reason as to why they're stepping away is, oh man. I mean, if I was into that scene, I would be upset for a multitude of reasons. I mean, he's one of the most he's one of the most visible people in that scene, and he has basically stated that attending the tournaments now feels unsafe, and the stress outweighs the enjoyment of him competing, which is just sad. I mean, take any of your hobbies or something that you're really skilled or good at, and imagine not getting necessarily burnt out on it, but just feeling anxiety having to go do it because of something kind of unrelated. Like, I get fans are a part of it, but that type of thing obviously is not something that anyone expects to be part of it. So that's just a brutal feeling to have. His personal security intervened during these incidents. So it's claimed that the tournament security did not respond effectively, and please keep in mind that I have not looked too deeply into this, so if there's been new statements or anything that I've missed, I apologize. But the talk around it has basically been that his personal security intervened and tournament security was lackluster.
It's really depressing. And like, speaking as somebody who has seen a lot of like World of Warcraft raiders step away, namely females in that scene, because the men on those teams can't keep their fucking hands off.
Yeah, it's not just this industry, obviously. Yeah. It's in every industry, and it's very sad and depressing when it comes up inevitably. And one of the reasons unfortunately that I included this story is there are some people out there that think it only happens one way. I do think we hear, see, and it probably does happen way more one way than the other. But I did want to just talk about this because it basically, leads into what we talked about last week and gives an example of it happening to everybody. So, keep in mind, people, keep your hands to yourselves. I think the other thing to mention here, just briefly before we kind of get into that, is the Pokemon Company International has not publicly responded to any of these statements as of yet. So if something does come out, hopefully they'll take action and maybe put something better in place. Because again, we just talked about what happened with TwitchCon last week and their subpar response. So just a couple things here. People, remain civil, okay? Streamers and influencers are definitely a newer type of celebrity that exists, and the interactions that they have, I do feel like make people more or feel more connected to them on a personal level, as opposed to the celebrities of past on the silver screen that become these mythical people. A lot of people see these individuals as someone who's been talking to them personally because of how we interact with them. I mean, do you agree or disagree with that?
Oh, I 100% agree. In fact, I would say that they're even closer to us than typical movie stars or like artists, like music artists and stuff like that. I would feel like they're actually a little bit closer to us, mainly because we see them constantly, right? We're constantly seeing their faces. They're actively interacting with us through chat and comments and stuff like that. It is way more connected than typical celebrities are nowadays.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you already, 100%. So I think with that in mind, anybody that's listening out there, I'm not saying don't approach anybody. I'm not saying get in for the selfie. That's a part of, our culture nowadays. But unless specified otherwise, unless the streamer or influencer is initiating whatever's happening, please treat what is essentially strangers as an acquaintance, right? Like at most, don't go anything beyond that, and definitely keep your hands to yourselves. I mean, my goodness, I can't believe that we have to talk about this in back-to-back weeks, but
agreed.
Keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah, it's depressing. But speaking of TwitchCon, on October 24th of this year, Clancy issued a more contrite statement via Twitch's official X account about the events last week.
And just to reiterate, that is the CEO.
Good point.
Of Twitch. Yep.
For those who didn't know. Some quotes taken from that statement is, quote, "We failed both in allowing it to occur and in our response following. We mismanaged our communications about the incident, and that includes the comments I made. I apologize to Emiru for all that took place," end quote. Now, Clancy obviously acknowledged the incident shouldn't have happened and stated that Twitch takes it very seriously. And the apology addressed, both the security failure and his previous interview comments, but was it sufficient?
I mean, look, if there wasn't this huge backlash, is he making that statement? Would be my question. Because they made a statement in the middle of it that was subpar. And so if none of this huge backlash happens, does this follow-up statement happen?
I doubt it.
Yeah, and I feel like if that's what we're answering with, then I feel like no. Like it's at least until you show otherwise, it's lip service. It's all it is for the moment. It's lip service. It doesn't matter. We already saw your actual actions, both before, during, and after, and none of it makes me believe that you're actually this sorry. And did you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, it's kind of like product reviews, right? If you're happy with the service, There's very few people who generally will put a review out if they're happy with it, right? Why would they put a review out? They'll just keep doing the thing or keep using the thing, right? But if you're really
you basically
pissed
get
about
reviews
Yeah.
that are either people that love the thing,
Mhm.
nothing in between, and then people that are unhappy.
Correct.
It's those extremes.
Yeah, 100%. So if their original statement was sufficient, then they would have, not gotten a lot of backlash. This statement would have never happened because they wouldn't ever have had to respond further. But instead, they did get a bunch of backlash, so clearly we get this.
Yep. And of course, one of the biggest people affected, Emiru, responded to the apology during a live stream on the 26th, so that's 2 days later, where she revealed additional problems with Twitch's handling of the situation. These are all claims, so if anything comes of it afterwards or proven untrue, this is just the claims that are being made. Twitch never contacted or apologized to her privately before releasing the public statement. The statement was issued without consulting her. She corrected her earlier comments, and Twitch was not cooperating with law enforcement investigations as initially claimed. And according to the San Diego police, Twitch knew the attacker's name, but actually refused to provide it to law enforcement until a warrant went through. And to end it all, which I feel like we're both in agreement for, you can disagree with me, but I doubt you will. She has stated that this will be her last TwitchCon, and after attending them on and off for a decade. So she's just not, basically at this moment, indefinitely not coming back. And I think basically everything we've said illustrates that their apology is lip service. It means nothing. Not only, again, actions speak louder than words, right? So security saw the event happen. The event was reported. It's on video, and still Twitch would not provide the information to police without a warrant, which from the letter of the law is obviously acceptable, but from an event that's supposed to be taking people's security seriously is not a serious response.
I mean, it was obvious that it wasn't going to be a serious response when they failed to detain the guy in the first place. They literally let him walk away.
You're not wrong, but the point here is that no one recognized any step of the way that they've done wrong, right? Yeah. It's continuous mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, and denial, 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 and only now do they provide this response. But again, at no point did they ever do anything where you would go, okay, well, at least now they've done this. No, never happened.
Yeah. I'm not even surprised, dude. Twitch has been, at least in my opinion, kind of failing, running in the red for probably a decade or more.
I mean, but they got that Amazon money.
Yeah, you're right, but that's the only reason they still exist, right?
Which maybe that might come up later.
Yeah, probably. I mean, some of the people that I watch, namely some of them who no longer have channels that you can subscribe to but still stream, talk about how much money they actually cost Twitch without actually giving them any amount of money, because anybody can stream on it, right? So if you're not getting subscriptions, you're not getting bits, Twitch is making no money off of your live stream. None whatsoever.
Well, I don't know if you saw this, and apologies if I'm getting this wrong. Maybe I'll have to look it up and put it, in the sources later. But I did see that during TwitchCon, Clancy either gave an interview or actually gave a donation that was essentially cash, and then specifically mentioned he did it because it didn't give Twitch any money.
I do remember that. It was $100.
Well, which just blows my mind. Like, you're supposed to be representing this company. If there's a problem, why don't you fix it?
Mm-hmm.
And B, why aren't you using the service that you expect other people? I mean, there's so many things we could go into it. We might have to have like a whole Twitch course at some point.
I'll be honest with you. I hardly ever watch on Twitch anymore. I'm a YouTube Premium subscriber. I watch on YouTube. Everybody who streams on Twitch generally streams on YouTube as well, because no one's going to do a non-compete agreement anymore, because that's just stupid.
Oh, I just had Twitch on yesterday.
That's wild.
Yeah, do you know why?
Hmm.
Because their marketing's effective. So here's what I do when they have drops for a game. Okay, I literally, before I go to work, pull up a major streamer, one that's usually going to hand off the stream, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'll put it up on my tablet, turn the volume all the way down, and then go up one notch and leave and go to work.
So I find that really funny because they do that stuff. They do Twitch drops for WoW pretty regularly. But
Yeah.
the problem is that those Twitch drops, they're usually some really crappy mount or some pet or whatever. What they've never done is like a piece of transmog, which for those who don't know, it's basically gear that you can place over the top of your actual gear to make it look different. Right? They've never done anything like that. Maybe I'll get into it when they decide to do some kind of Twitch drop for the housing stuff, but I doubt it.
So I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So WoW literally has its own name for skins.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
It's
All right.
I want to say skins have definitely existed before, right? Well before
Oh,
transmogrification ever became a
Yeah.
thing.
Look. It fits in the WoW universe. I'm not knocking it.
I'm-
I just found it funny because I don't know a huge amount about WoW. And so as you're describing this in my own mind, I was just like, well, that's a skin.
Final Fantasy 14 has its own name too.
I don't.
It's
doubt
called
it. I mean, if
Glamour.
you have that many players, you can have whatever name you want for
Oh,
it.
100%.
All right. Well, I think maybe we'll have to have a whole course about Twitch at one point, and I'm sure there'll be some WoW information for you to get into at also some point. But I think we probably should move on to the next topic.
Oh, for sure. Nintendo Switch 2 delayed to 2026. No, sorry. Elden Ring for Nintendo Switch 2 delayed for 2026.
No,
I just
bring it
skipped
back,
the entire
everyone.
word.
Everyone, bring it
back.
back.
Sorry. Hold on.
Delaying it.
It's all gone. It's all delayed. No, Elden Ring for Nintendo Switch 2 delayed to 2026. The official statement that From Software announced, while development on Elden Ring Tarnished Edition continues wholeheartedly toward release, we have decided to move the launch to 2026 to allow for performance adjustments. We apologize to players looking forward to the game and thank you for your patience and support. Now,
Sorry, you continue.
I have not played Elden Ring. I'm not a fan of the Dark Souls series in general.
Sure.
I don't, its gameplay loop does not jive. Is Elden Ring Tarnished Edition being released everywhere?
Yeah, I think it's like I'd have to double check, but from what I've read, no, sorry, it is. I actually have it up. It's basically it's the Game of the Year edition type stuff that you see from people. So it has all the things.
Okay, so then it's delayed for everything or just the Nintendo Switch?
Just for the Nintendo Switch, as I read it.
That's
So,
sketch.
Yeah. I mean, and even if they're delaying it everywhere, that we already know the game came out, so it works for stuff, right?
Mhm.
So even if they are delaying it for everywhere, which is not what I saw, I would still say you're only doing it because of the Switch 2. That's the only new thing that they're putting it on, right?
For sure.
So my concern here, do you know when Elden Ring came out, by the way?
Oh, God.
Just take a guess.
6 years ago?
No, man, dude, your timing with WoW and everything else is just you just have the weirdest.
It's probably not
perception of
even
time.
remotely close to 6 years, but continue.
Well, you're like 60%. So, it came out January of 2022, right? So 3 months from now, that'll be 4 years.
4 years, 6 years, who cares?
Okay. Anyways, so my concern here is that a game that is essentially 4 years old has problems on the Switch 2. And so I have to ask the question that was the issue with the last Switch. Are major third-party titles going to struggle to run on the console, which is supposedly going to be around for another 7 years. Again, Elden Ring is a 4-year-old game.
I mean, I think the simple answer is yes. Like, plain and simple.
Yeah.
And I have anecdotal evidence of this exact thing. Monster Hunter Rise. Okay? Monster Hunter Rise released on the original Switch.
Mm-hmm.
And it released a year early on the original Switch than it did on PC.
Sure.
Wait, is that true? I don't remember if that's true or not. Anyways.
It is for this conversation.
It is for this conversation. Anyways, the point is I've seen it on both, right? PC and Rise, and the Switch. And I let me just tell you, playing Monster Hunter at 30 FPS, get some help. Okay?
Yeah.
You need help if you think that is a good experience. We're talking about a fast-paced game. We have incredibly large monsters flying at you. We're talking about iframes that are literally harder. You have fewer iframes than any Dark Souls title out there. 30 FPS just ain't gonna do it.
Yeah, but notoriously Dark Souls games are easy, so that's not really a fair comparison.
Okay, buddy. just rage bait.
If you disagree with me, email us at thegameprofessors.com.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Anyways, my point is that it ran barely at 30 FPS. And if you look at the people, you look at the reviews, oftentimes mid-combat, it dropped to 20 FPS. We're talking about a game that was designed for the Switch. We're talking about a company that designed their games for the Nintendo DS, the GameCube, the game... yeah, my point is mobile, right? They've done a ton of handheld mobile stuff. So what the heck is wrong? I think the reality, personally, is that Nintendo Switch refuses to spend the money to make their consoles worth a damn, but want us to spend the money like they are.
Yep. Here's the thing. They don't need to spend the money, right? Because they know they have a market. They know the market wants to buy it. They know they're buying it for their games. At least for the moment, until they get another GameCube type of situation, they don't have to spend the money. Nintendo Switch 2 is selling well, so it's just not going to be... at this point, as much as I would love to play a bunch of Nintendo games, I literally just saw that they put the Luigi's Mansion, the first one, on the back catalog of games that you can play with the subscription, which one of my favorite games as a kid. So it just, it makes me sad that I have no reason to pick up a Switch 2, because outside of those types of, nostalgia type things, I'm not really necessarily into a lot of Nintendo games, so it's just not worth it for me to pick up this console. I'd much rather have a portable PC.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree. And as somebody who grew up playing like Mario, Kirby, Super Smash, Mario Kart, right? All of that stuff. I grew up playing that stuff and I loved it. And I still do. But I'm just not willing to spend the same amount of money on a worse console.
Yeah, you're basically getting do you want to play some, lower fidelity experiences, or do you want to play Nintendo first-party titles, or do you want to play Nintendo's back catalog of games? If any of those answers are yes, and you're willing to pay between $400 and $500 for it, then get a Nintendo Switch 2. Otherwise, at the moment, it's just not worth it, especially as we just kind of talked about, if third-party titles aren't going to be able to run efficiently or well on the platform moving forward.
Your phone would
Any
probably
last
run it better.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Alrighty. Well, if you're ready to shoot your way through the galaxy consumed by greed, Outer Worlds 2 will launch today. That's October 29th. bringing Obsidian's satirical sci-fi RPG back with some sharper combat, deeper choices, and a whole lot of corpo-sanctioned chaos. The gunplay has received a major overhaul with weightier, more responsive firing mechanics and significantly expanded weapons. As with the first one, your choices genuinely matter across the entire narrative, with multiple branching paths that adapt to your behavior, reputation, and past decisions, ultimately influencing which of the several endings you'll experience, which is something that's a little bit more in-depth than the previous one. I will definitely play this at some point. I don't know if you ever played it, but I did love the first Outer Worlds. And for anyone that doesn't know, Obsidian is the company that brought you Fallout New Vegas back in the day, widely considered one of the best Fallouts. I definitely think it's up there. I have my heart on Fallout 3 for some specific missions that I remember to this day. But New Vegas, from start to finish, was amazing. There's so much good content in there. And Outer Worlds 2 was fun. I definitely played through the campaign the campaign. I definitely played through the game a few times, and at one point, just to see how far I could take it, there are no protected, or if there are, there's not many that I remember, NPCs, because at one point I just went full murder hobo on everything from start to finish. If it moved and I came across it, I just killed it, and the game let me do it. And obviously, at some point, it makes it hard to continue when everyone's dead. But it gave me the freedom to do it. And so, on top of all the actual interesting narrative stuff, it was a fun game just because of the freedom it gave you.
I vividly remember that story. I think you told it to me like the next day. It was like, why? Why are you like this?
Just to see if I could.
I know.
Don't put me on a list.
You're already on the list, sir. All we're doing is adding an asterisk.
Okay? My FBI agent is not on this call, okay? It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Chime in if you are.
Nope, nothing. See?
Nope, we're good. Guess not.
Anyways. So I look forward to it. It'll be a fun time. If anyone hasn't played Outer Worlds 2 or Outer Worlds the first one, pick it up on sale somewhere. You won't be disappointed. It's absolutely worth the money. The early reviews for Outer Worlds 2 are positive. Eurogamer highlighted, quote, "Everything is just better than the first game," end quote, with particular praise for its thoughtful mission design. However, as with a lot of games that are on Unreal Engine 5, there are some reports of performance issues. So, just be ready for some of that if you encounter it. I did see a clip initially of loading into a world, i.e. with like the landing cutscene. And oh man, the frames dropped, the stuttering started, and it was bad. I think it eventually caught up, but just be ready for that. You'll probably might experience some of that. Aside from that, the other big release this week is Arc Raiders, so you better get ready and geared up because you're going topside when the game drops on October 30th, which is tomorrow, as of this recording. Whether it's grinding away on Arc, fighting off others who you want to loot, or maybe you're just excited to get back to playing the flute, the game has something for everybody. Did you see any of those videos, Heru?
No, I did not. I want to now, but
I'm
gonna have to see them.
Dude, it's not just one either. It started to become a thing where there's I've seen at least 3 or 4 different ones where you can loot a flute and just actually play it. So I've seen so many videos of people just being Pied Pipers, talking about like, hey, with the in-game world chat, right? The proximity voice chat. Talking about, no, we're just playing, we're safe. And dude, at one point, I saw a video of like 10 to 20 guys just sitting on top of one of the tallest buildings, looking at people off in the distance, and then sending people out to go collect those people. And they had extra flutes to give them so that they could all play on the roof. I just appreciate when a game has something this silly that allows for these types of fun things to naturally happen. So, on top of the extraction shooter mechanics, I do look forward to playing it. And you have any mentions or anything you want to talk about for it?
Nope, not really. I'm super excited for it. I still don't have cutting edge in WoW, and I'm mad about it. But we'll get there, and then we're just gonna play Arc Raiders. So
Fair enough. Well, for anyone that doesn't know, there will be 4 rotating battlegrounds: Dam Battlegrounds, Buried City, Akira Spaceport, and Blue Gate, with a 5th map, Stellar Montes. Teased for the future, there's going to be dynamic events like electromagnetic storms, night raids, harvester encounters, guarded by Queen class enemies that will create some interesting situations that also impact loot quality and obviously enemy difficulty. So, some new things we haven't experienced from the beta that I would like to also again clarify that we played only a little bit of.
yeah,
So, I look forward to enjoying the game.
I just didn't want to progress too far, with the beta and stuff like that.
Well, we don't get to keep any of the loot.
Exactly.
So it's like, hey, are you enjoying the game? Great, cool. Well, then I'm just gonna wait till it comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
So getting into our first kind of bigger story for the episode, or course, as I like to call them. Halo Campaign Evolved was announced, which is a complete remake, not remaster, of Halo Combat Evolved, the original 2001 game. For anyone who wouldn't know, which has to be far and few in between, and it'll be coming to PlayStation, which ends Master Chief's 2-decade run as the defining Xbox mascot. It's a new era. Notable updates will include updated 4K visuals, remastered music, and re-recorded voice lines, which is an interesting touch that I'm not sure we necessarily see often. 3 brand new prequel missions, including Master Chief and Sergeant Johnson, set before the original game's storyline, extended arsenal of weapons, vehicles, and new enemy types, and skulls. If anyone doesn't know, those are the Easter egg / collector's items that you can find in-game, and then once you find them, you can equip them to modify your game. There's all kinds of things from just being silly and crazy to actually making the game way more difficult, and of course there's achievements for equipping some of them and playing through the campaign with them. It's definitely an awesome thing that I kind of wish some other games copied, because it would make actually finding those hidden items worth finding, because it modifies your gameplay. So they'll have more and some newer ones for people to find. It in an interesting turn, especially because, if anyone doesn't know, Infinite actually scrapped the co-op initially until they finally gave up and brought it. It will feature 2-player couch co-op on all console versions and 4-player online co-op available on console and PC. It will have full seamless cross-platform play, shared progression across Xbox and PlayStation and PC, which should be interesting because obviously a lot of PlayStation fans will be getting access to Halo for the first time. So any Xbox people that want to run through the remaster with any PlayStation friends will be able to do so without having to buy one console or the other, which is nice. However, for any Xbox fans, as we've talked about a couple weeks now, this isn't the first major Microsoft franchise that is making the jump to PlayStation. Gears of War Reloaded will also be coming to August in 2025, sometime this year, and Forza Horizon 5 as well, on top of the other ones we've mentioned in previous courses. So Microsoft's becoming a publisher. Halo Studios community director Brian Gerard officially stated, "It's really, quote, it's really a new era. Halo is on PlayStation going forward," end quote. And Halo will be a third-party franchise going forward, end quote. Xbox President Sarah Bond recently called the idea of exclusive games antiquated, which we have mentioned before, stating that people have evolved way past locking games to one device or store. Any comments on any of that, Heru? It's kind of a big deal, in my opinion.
Oh, I mean, it's definitely a big deal. I mean, granted, I've been out of the Halo space since Halo Reach stopped being popular, but I mean, I always enjoyed Halo in general. I mean, all of my friends were like Master Chief this, Master Chief that, and I was just like, but Cortana. So
Right?
it's gonna be an interesting reality, I think. A remake going back to the original concepts, while bringing in some modern flair, has definite value. As we've seen with other titles such as World of Warcraft, which brought back Classic, and Final Fantasy, which remade Final Fantasy VII. It's definitely worth doing, and I think I'm kind of excited, but at the same time, I don't know if I'll pick it up. The
I,
issue that I have, Halo was great on a controller because I was able to separate the overly competitive side of myself and be able to just like play on a controller and just vibe. But you put it on a mouse and keyboard, and all of a sudden I'm going to get competitive.
yeah, 100%. I mean, I totally agree with that, and it looks like it will be on everything.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing here that I have not mentioned, because it's funny you mentioned that, is no multiplayer.
Holy crap.
So, yeah,
I didn't
I,
even realize that.
yeah, I omitted it so you wouldn't see it. Um, so yeah, no multiplayer. This is co-op only campaign stuff, which to me seems like the biggest problem with this whole thing is, yeah, the campaigns were great. I loved Master Chief. He was the mascot of the console. Everyone, he's on all the marketing. He's beloved, and they at least 1 to 3 and a couple of campaigns mixed in were amazing experiences. But the biggest thing for Halo was always the multiplayer.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So I don't know if they're piecemealing this out later, or like what the deal is here, because I would assume if they're doing a remake, it should include multiplayer to me.
I mean, this is a pure meme, but maybe multiplayer is a DLC.
Sure. I mean, along those lines, maybe this is just advertising and marketing for the next Halo game, and they're going to try to get people to buy into that multiplayer.
Maybe. I don't know.
So, yeah. I don't know either. But just to throw some numbers, Halo franchise sold over 81 million copies worldwide. Total franchise sales exceeded 6 billion, with 1.8 billion from non-gaming merchandise. So it's a huge thing to go over to PlayStation. It's really the pillar of the whole console, and it's not exclusive anymore.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we'll get into some reasons that I don't think it really matters, but let's continue.
and with that, we will move on to business and econ. All right, as always, we may be getting it over our heads with this one, but we're switching some gears to business and econ, and we're starting off with Microsoft demanding 30% profit margins from the Xbox division, which, as we'll get into, explains a lot of the discussions we've had over the last few weeks, especially about price increases. So Microsoft's chief financial officer, Amy Hood, set a aggressive target for the Xbox division to achieve 30% accountability margins, and that's in quotes, accountability margins, which is Microsoft's term for profit margins, back in 2023. Again, 2023, that is correct. This has come to light since then, so it's been going on for the last couple of years. The focus on higher margin opportunities, as noted by Amy Hood during a July 2025 investor call, where she mentioned Xbox operating income increased 34% in the last quarter. So, like a good company, everybody's following suit and achieving those targets, it looks like. The industry average for reference is 17 to 22%, according to the S&P Global Market Intelligence. And Xbox has historically had a performance of 10 to 20% over the last 6 years and 12% in the first 9 months of 2022. Industry analysis from S&P Global Analysis, Neil Barbour, is how I'm going to pronounce that name, stated that a 30% margin is, quote, unusually reserved for a publisher that is really nailing it, end quote, achievable only during peak years or by exceptional performance publishers. Prior to this mandate, Xbox developers were not given any specific numerical targets and were instead encouraged to focus on creating quality games without excessive concern for profitability, which I bet every gamer loves when you focus on the games and not necessarily on the profits.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, understanding a company has to turn a profit, but it is unfortunate that the focus isn't the games themselves anymore. This timing coincided with Microsoft's $68.7 billion Activision Blizzard acquisition finalized in October of that 2023, which brought major franchises including Call of Duty and Diablo, along with the entire Blizzard catalog, under Xbox's umbrella. Any comments on that so far?
Yeah, hey, Microsoft, if you'd like to keep your money, quit buying things.
Quit buying things, make things people want, make good things.
Quit being a monopoly.
There's lots of ways that you can get money.
Quit ruining our entire gaming market by trying to get into it.
I mean, they were already into it. They don't even need to get into it. Just make good things.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
Like, no one is saying, other than obviously hardware reliability problems, no one was saying the Xbox 360 was a bad generation of console. There were so many great games on that console. It was the leading console for that generation. And they chucked all of that out the window. I mean, God, we can get into a whole thing about that at some point. But like, they were in a good position at one point. And instead of focusing on what gamers want and what good games are and what makes for a good gaming experience, it just feels like after that generation where they saw the dollar signs, they've just been focusing on other things.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, the speculation from Bloomberg specifically and other sources are saying that Xbox developers were directly presented with the 30% profit margin target, which I feel like it's safe to assume that the cancellation of a lot of major projects, including the Perfect Dark game, which I was actually looking forward to because I remember the original, which was over 7 years in development, Everwild, which was over 8 years in development, and Project Blackbird, which was a sci-fi MMO, again over 7 years in development, were probably brought back or just full on canceled, at least in part because of this mandate. There was also studio closures for The Initiative, which was 2018 to 2025, which was developer of that Perfect Dark reboot, and Arcane Studios, which was officially shut down by Microsoft in May of 2024, which is Prey and Redfall, although Redfall specifically not necessarily a great game, but oh man, I did love Prey. Tango Gameworks, which was the Japanese studio best known for the award-winning Hi-Fi Rush, and Ghostwire, which people did enjoy, Ghostwire Tokyo, which people did enjoy, and the Evil Within series, which was also shut down by Microsoft in June of 2024. That company was later purchased by Krafton, which is of the PUBG fame. So at least the studio didn't go away, but there was a time where it looked like they were just fully shut down before a month later when they were sold.
Yeah, they've canceled so many things, and after dumping years, like half decade plus into these things, like, do you not have a game at that point? Like 7 years, 8 years, 7 years, 7 years, right? Like,
yep,
you've got to have something to show the people, right? Are you just assuming, hey, I guess it's just not worth putting out, it's not fun enough, whatever?
Well, in all three of these too, all three of these have nothing, right? You couldn't, even if you say, yes, let's say 2 of them are absolutely subpar, you can move assets into the one that seems the best or the most likely to succeed, but none of them.
I was really excited for Everwild too.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily personally, but obviously we talked about multiple games on this list that would have been exciting to see come to fruition, but it's not going to do that.
Yeah.
And famously, they literally talked about a month before they closed down Tango Gameworks about how they were looking for award-winning studios to have under their umbrella, and Hi-Fi Rush was an award-winning game, and they shut down that studio. So I'm either being gaslit or lied to, one or the other,
or both.
I mean, yeah, porque no los dos, right? Why not both?
Yep.
Anyways, this obviously coincides with the price increases on Game Pass Ultimate, which we've talked about. The hardware price hikes, which some of them were up to $100 for a 5-year-old console. And I don't know if you saw this particular news story, but Xbox actually increased their developer kits from $1,500 to $2,000 as well. So not only is it hitting consumers, it's also hitting developers.
Which will hit consumers.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just double dipping on consumers at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's dumb to say it is only $500 on a per dev kit basis, but I mean, dude, that adds up when you need that many dev kits.
Yeah.
It's just
absolutely. Like, how do you hit higher profit margins? Do absolutely nothing to provide greater value, but increase the price. That's your answer.
Yeah, don't provide me a better gaming experience. Don't provide me something I want or that people have been asking for. Just buy something else, put it on your thing, and then put extra prices on there saying, "Hey, we bought a thing, so we need to increase the price to make back our money." It was like,
yep.
If you don't have the money, don't buy the thing. Anyways.
Yep.
Anyways, as we mentioned in the lecture Lowdown, multiple first-party titles, past, present, future, are going to come to all the platforms: PC, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5. So they don't even have exclusives anymore for the console, essentially. Those are basically gone. An unnamed spokesperson in the article I read, which is in our sources, made a statement defending the strategy. Quote, "We look at the business as a whole, balancing creativity, innovation, and sustainability across a diverse portfolio of offerings. Sometimes that means making hard decisions and stopping work on things that are no longer working." End quote. Which, in and of itself, is not an incorrect statement, but there's just been too many. You shut down, shuttered, and canceled way too many things. Again, I will bring up Tango Gameworks over and over again, including a studio that had a history of making good, if not great, games. So you're telling me that studio wasn't working? Like, I know Hi-Fi Rush wasn't necessarily the critically acclaimed sales darling that you wanted, but it was critically acclaimed. So put them on something else and see what they can do for you. They might hit the goal. It just drives me nuts. Nadella, the Microsoft CEO, is set to receive a $96.5 million pay package for 2025 fiscal year, which is his highest since taking the position.
Look, executives make too much. I'll just say it.
I have I've had this conversation with lots of people. I do not have a problem with CEOs making a lot of money. The buck is supposed to stop with you. Whether or not it does is a whole different conversation. But the buck is supposed to stop with you. Your whole life essentially is that job. You don't really have any time off, although a lot of the CEOs obviously take time off, but it is supposed to be your whole life, day in, day out. I don't have a problem with them making a lot of money. I do have a problem with them making obscene amounts of money, as do a lot of people. And obscene is going to always be a personal perception and preference type of thing on what that amount of money actually is. But I do think on a company that is laying off tens of thousands of people, $100 million pay package just seems a little tone deaf, I feel like.
Oh, 100%. Like, you're bringing home, is this an extra $100 million? Like, beyond his usual salary?
That is a good question I don't have an answer to.
Fair enough. I mean, look, their usual salary is already incredibly high. We're talking these people can work for 1, 2, 3 years and retire, right? Sure, they'd have to live like us, right? They wouldn't be able to live in the lap of luxury. They'd have to live
million.
Right. My point is that like just with the salary, right? Just with the salary of these people, they can usually retire after a single year, right? It's more than most of us will make working jobs that require bachelor's degrees in our entire lifetime. So
I continue.
Not to mention the fact that the bonuses that they get for a single year are often higher than our salaries.
Yeah, they're very high.
Meanwhile, they're like, "Oh yeah, but we're giving you 4% of the profits as a bonus." Where's the other 96% going?
Dude, it's
we don't have to get that deep.
Again, no, it's not even that. It's that if the company was doing well, nobody would have a problem, right?
Sure.
If everyone was staying employed and they were, bringing on new people and, everyone was doing well and getting paid well, no one would care about what the CEO is being paid.
Yeah.
The problem is that the company is constantly laying off people. The divisions aren't doing well.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting this amount of money for what? What are you getting this money for? Like, to your point, okay, investors are happy, but is the company really in a good place? I will always bring this up, so you'll hear me say it multiple times, but one of my favorite stories was Satoru Iwata. Do you know who that is?
Not off the top of my head.
That would be the Nintendo CEO who passed away in 2015. One of my favorite stories from him, or just in general about him and Nintendo, is that Nintendo obviously was riding a high with the Wii, right? They were printing money, making hand over fist. That little plastic box was gold. And then they put out the Wii U, which was a commercial and critical flop, right? It conceptually, you could see what they were going to, especially with hindsight with what the Switch became. But at the time, it was the wrong place, the wrong time, the wrong clientele. They weren't going to sell that to most of the people that bought a Wii. It just wasn't going to do well, and it didn't do well. And Nintendo started to lose a lot of money. Keep in mind, even though they made a lot of money with the Wii, this is coming off the GameCube generation, which they didn't make a lot of money. So now, essentially, in 3 console generations, they have 2 flops. So when it came time to cut back and roll back and lay off people, famously, he refused to do it. Instead, he took multiple 50% pay cuts so that he could keep people on and employed because he believed in those employees and believed the company would turn it around. And unfortunately, with his passing in 2015, he never really got to see the full success of the Nintendo Switch, which is a little sad part of the story. But clearly he was right. The Nintendo Switch, which was designed under his tenure before he died, was a massive success and continues to be a massive success. And he, even during hard times, didn't have to lay anyone off because he personally took pay cuts. That is what the CEO should be. The buck stops there. You can make gobs amount of money when things are doing well. And honestly, you should. If you're at the helm of a company that's doing well, you should make lots of money. You're, for the most part, heading the ship, right? Just like the captain gets paid more on a ship, which obviously he should because he's in charge. The problem is that if things aren't going well, you shouldn't be making these obscene amounts of money. You should be figuring out ways to keep the good employees. I'm not saying you can't lay anyone off, but you should figure out ways to keep the people that have made you successful in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I thoroughly agree. If the company's doing well, you should do well. But that also means your entire team should do well. Not just you. And if you're not doing well, then your job as the leader of a company is to make a sacrifice because you make buttloads of money anyways. Make the sacrifice so that your team can continue living their lives and continue working for you, assuming that they're not doing anything wrong.
Well, and to be clear here, no one's saying you can't trim around or, lay off some people, but like to get bonuses and lay off tens of thousands is just a bad look.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned
anyways
in a previous course that the FTC former chair, Lena Khan, in October criticized Microsoft's post-Activision acquisition strategy, saying, quote, Microsoft's acquisition of Activision has been followed by significant price hikes and layoffs, harming both gamers and developers, end quote. And we're talking massive layoffs. Like, we're talking thousands of employees affected across multiple rounds. Something along the lines of 9,000 workers were laid off at Microsoft overall, with a heavy focus on the gaming division. Which, look, you buy, Activision Blizzard King, right? A lot of people forget the King in that. King makes a hell of a lot of money. In fact,
King Mobile specifically, if anyone doesn't know.
Yep. If you look at ABK, if you look at their numbers in the past, King often made more than Activision and Blizzard. Mm-hmm. Not combined.
Especially if you take Call of Duty out of the situation. It's
right. Oh, God. Yeah.
Huge amount.
But, if you compare those same numbers, 9,000 layoffs, to the 2023 to 2025 from other companies in the industry, approximately
in that same time frame.
Yeah, in the same time frame, approximately 1,500, a little bit more Sony employees across all divisions, roughly 600 employees from Riot, a total of about 4,800 from the Embracer Group, which is like Deep Silver, THQ Nordic, Crystal Dynamics, and Eidos Montreal, and a couple of others. And roughly 2,900 for Ubisoft, right? Same exact time.
The company period that was going under and dealing with a hostile takeover.
Exactly.
And ended up being sold.
Exactly. We're comparing those to a company that has had, would you argue, record profits?
Yeah.
At least in the gaming side, right? They made Xbox. Since 2023, they forced them to push for a 30% target, which means
and we just saw I just said earlier, right, in the July 2025 investor call, Xbox operating income increased by 34%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Why are you laying off 9,000 people? I understand that there's going to be redundancies, especially after acquiring ABK. ABK had its own publishing, it had its own leadership, right? All of that stuff. But to believe that you as a company can just walk in and replace all of that leadership and all of that publishing, all of that support that ABK was getting from their individual staff is appalling.
And to be fair, that increase could have been because they laid off all those people, which I would respond with, well, then that's an artificial increase, right? Just because you're laying off people and there's less cost doesn't mean that cost isn't going to be taken out of your hide later on.
Right.
But all those numbers you mentioned, that's still about the same amount as the 9,000. So it takes Sony, Riot, Embracer Group, which is multiple studios, and Ubisoft to equal the same amount of Microsoft layoffs.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I don't know how the Xbox division or Microsoft's work environment is, but I've heard stories about Riot's work environment, not counting the lawsuits. Same thing with Blizzard's, again, not counting the lawsuits. Especially their game development studios, they trust their developers to do right by the company.
Yeah. Usually there is trust involved, whether or not it's Trust well placed.
Fair. But, like, fool me once, right?
Yep.
Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yep. I mean, we'll get into it a little later, but like, you better provide some amazing hardware, because there's very little incentive for me to buy an Xbox slash specific Microsoft piece of hardware with just everything that's coming out. So
I agree.
You better hit your hardware out of the park for me.
Yep.
To be interested in that.
And on top of that, I honestly believe that they would have a better time releasing a stripped down Windows, like Windows gaming, right, as an operating system that you could just slap on a freaking computer. I honestly think they would succeed better.
You hold that thought.
Oh, I will.
You'll hold that thought. Oh, man. Was there any other numbers you want to throw at us?
Not really. I think it's obvious at this point. I mean,
that's fair. Just to add a little bit to that, Microsoft the Xbox is the only Microsoft division since 2021 with a specified performance goal tied to executive compensation, which means that was consistently missed, which means that heavy push is obviously coming from up on high, which Amy Hood his, but everybody's on board because you ain't getting paid unless you're hitting those goals. Microsoft's continuously missed Game Pass subscriber targets, missed Xbox content and service revenue growth, and Xbox revenue achieved only 14% annual growth, which should be fine. But, it's not quite good enough for them. A lot of experts in the industry view that 30% mandate as unsustainable and self-destructive in the long term, which, unless you're Steam and you have that install base, that 30% is going to be definitely a higher barrier to entry. And basically prioritizing short-term financial returns. So, excuse me, we'll see what happens with that. Any last comments for this article?
No.
Alrighty. Well, with that, let's get into Amazon also announcing a bunch of gaming division layoffs along with others around the company. Yesterday, October 28th, it announced that it was eliminating 14,000 corporate positions company-wide, with the gaming division being the hardest hit, with, quote, significant role reductions, end quote, at Irvine and San Diego studios, plus the central publishing team. VP Steve Boom stated the company is halting a significant amount of first-party AAA game development, particularly MMOs, and a strategic shift attributed to AI investment priorities and leaning into, quote, things Amazon does best, end quote.
With the recent outages of AWS, are you sure you do it best now?
Or do it at all?
Yeah, exactly. But regardless, Amazon saw Microsoft's numbers and was like, bet we can do better.
And
that's literally what freaking happened here. Now look, I'm not a fan of Amazon's gaming branch and their stated goals. The way that they opted to start that studio was stupid, plain and simple. You don't start a gaming studio with an MMO unless you're a big name in that MMO space already, right? You're bringing in big names who've worked on other MMOs for an extended length of time, and they're feeding into that, right?
Yeah.
So we'll get into more. But speaking of MMOs, the New World MMO has been announced that it's going into maintenance mode. As of this month. Which, I mean, correlate that to the layoffs as much as you want. But Season 10 and Night Haven, that update, it's confirmed as the final content drop. The servers are going to remain operational through 2026 with a promise of a 6 months notice before potential shutdown. But The problem
that
is,
sounds good.
no, none of it sounds good, but it gets worse. Wait, there's more.
Okay.
The game will continue to be sold at a $60 price point while maintaining all of its relatively predatory microtransactions within the game.
Ouch. Well,
Now-
I mean, what incentive is there to pick up a game that looks like it's ending at $60?
You really, really, really want to experience the story.
Or, counterpoint, maybe you're trying to isekai yourself into a game as the server shut down. So you're picking up the game, and when the server shut down, you can get into your own Overlord experience. That's what I imagine happening.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so we had a peak concurrent players on Steam specifically of about 913,000. The player base has obviously significantly declined since launch, but it's kind of weird, right? MMOs, they have a very, very weird content cycle of like players coming back and leaving and coming back and leaving.
Yeah, for content drops.
Yeah, exactly. So October 2021, roughly 900,000, like I said. November, 350,000. You've already lost 2/3 of your player base. December, 145,000. You've already lost another half. January of 2022. You've now lost another 30,000 with only sitting around 117,000. Right? It was still fresh. Yep. It was still new. People were still getting it for Christmas, so on and so forth. February of 2022, you're now down to 67,000. So you've lost another half of your player base in, what was that, 6 months? Yeah, math is hard. And from there, it basically sits at the 30,000 mark until October of 2022, which I'm presuming is probably the ramp up to another patch, where it ramps to 69,000 players, and then November it jumps to 137,000, and then December it drops back down to 73,000. So not only have you brought back a bunch of players, but you didn't give them a reason to stick around. Weirdly,
I mean, from a non-MMO perspective, those are decent numbers.
Sure.
God, what was it? The Black Ops 7 beta had 99,000 people on Steam. So, like,
yeah,
if you're gonna hover around 70,000, it's not bad. There's way less healthy, games out there than that. So
absolutely,
there's something there.
Yeah. Reminder though that this is the first year.
Second year, right? Because it was 2021. It was
October 2022. Well, October 2021 to October 2022, right? First year.
Got it. Okay.
It gets worse. So November, like I said, it jumps to 137,000. December, it drops to 73,000, 50,000, 32,000, so on and so forth, until again there's another spike in October of 2023. At this point, you've proven to your community over the course of 2 years, you are only going to release content once a year.
Yeah, so they're just going to come back that once a year.
Play exactly.
The content, come back another year.
They're going to come back for, a month, 2 months, play the content, move on, right? You're not making enough money there. And
I mean, with a peak concurrent player base of 913,000 and a consistent player base over a few years, it seems like they could have made a good amount of money.
It looks
not
like
WoW
it.
money.
No, of course not. We're talking about a game that was up for 20 years versus a game that has been up at this point for 2.
Yeah. So it sounds like they could have made a good amount of money.
It's very possible, but the problem is now, like I said, you have exposed your pattern to your players. MMO players, I'm talking about myself, are creatures of habit. When we come home, we want to turn on our favorite MMO and play it. From what I could see,
that's fair.
Nobody opted to say, New World is my primary game, right? MMOs are primary games, just like Halo or Call of Duty, right? Or even Battlefield, right? They become primary games. They're the thing that you focus on. Everything else is a break from that, right? So I've said time and time again that they've exposed the pattern. It gets worse in 2024. They drop under 30,000 in January of 2024, and then in February, they drop half of that down to 17,000. And then by August of 2024, they've dropped down to 5,000 players that logged in the course of all of August 2024. But like I said, you've exposed your pattern at this point. October of 2024, you jump back up to 61,000. Yeah, there's new content. Let's go. Okay, back in December, though, you're down to 25,000 again. What's really funny about this, though, because at this point, we've talked about the entire lifespan of this game. In the last 30 days, they're up to 50,000 players.
Yeah,
right? Now, granted,
because of this announcement.
I doubt it. I actually think it's probably because of this most recent update. Right? Because, again, Night Raven dropped in October. So, the problem is, though, look, I played New World. I try every frickin' MMO that comes out that's worth a damn. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
It was set up to fail. Like, plain and simple. When it came out, it was like PvX-ish, right? PvE in most of the places, and then the high-end content was primarily PvP/PvX in, I want to say it was like Eternum zones, something like that. I don't remember. It was years ago at this point. The point is that they were PvP zones, and that's what had the high-end material, right? So you were encouraged to go there. You were encouraged to fight for your safety. You were encouraged to group up with players and blah, 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 blah. Here's the problem. You had to pick a faction. There were 3 factions in the game. Well, every server, it was pretty obvious which faction had the most players. And it was even worse on streamer servers, man. It was so bad on streamer servers. Like, we're talking 90% of players were in one faction, and the other 10% were distributed between the other 2 factions. It was pointless. So, what happened? Well, they made it to where you could do this long, convoluted quest to be able to switch factions. So what did everybody do? They just all switched to the same faction. So now you just don't have PvP anymore. Because you can't attack people of your same faction. And I don't know if that's changed, granted, right? I have no idea. I stopped playing the game well before January of 2022, but that is exactly what happened, right? So
I feel like you should write a paper on this. It's really good expert analysis.
I'll get right on that. But it was kind of set up to fail, right? The crafting system was okay, if uninspired. The combat system might as well just go play Guild Wars 2. Obviously every MMO has server issues. Whoop-de-doo, no one cares. But the real big problem was that you touted this game as a PvX experience, then created 3 factions, and made it to where everybody could just swap to the same one and stop interacting with the other players.
That's fair.
So it just kind of fails in that aspect. And the problem with any MMO that comes out nowadays, if you do not steal players from World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, Guild Wars 2, or any of the other ones that are still actively running somehow, you're not going to survive. Now, I agree with you that 30,000 players, roughly. That's a good number. Original World of Warcraft servers had a 10,000 player maximum. And those servers felt really alive.
Sure.
So 30,000, I mean, you're running 3 servers, not a big deal. You could even, now, with today's modern technology, you could just make it one server and put all 30,000 in the same server.
No, you can definitely find a spot for it.
Yeah, exactly. And you didn't have a subscription, which the problem with not having a subscription and having a microtransaction-based economy is that you inevitably have to make those microtransactions benefit the player in some way. It turns into a pay-to-win nightmare. So you have that.
Yeah, you definitely don't want that in your MMO. That's a good way to kill it.
Yeah, it is. It's a very fast way to kill it because you end up just having the whales take over everything, and then it becomes this weird social dynamic where everybody's just trying to become friends with the whales, right? Or the whales run guilds. But then at that point, those whales have now decided who wins and who loses, unless they're just taking a bunch of peons and fighting against another whale. You know, I'm going to call them krill instead of peons. They're just taking a bunch of krill and throwing them at the other whale, right? Like that becomes the game. And it sucks. That's not a fun environment. ArcAge did the same thing.
No.
It was sad, needless to say.
You don't want to be fed to the whales.
Not really, no. You really don't want to be fed to the whales. You want to feel like you have some kind of actual response to people who have put hundreds of, if not thousands of dollars into the game, right? That's what you want.
Yeah, 100%. It's unfortunately got to a space that was at. I did look up the numbers. It looks like they made about 710 million in gross, which is a success by any normal metric. But if they're doing things like feeding krill to the whales, then it makes sense that they were making that money. All right. Any last comments about New Worlds?
Nah. Like I rated enough.
All right, that's fair. It was a good rant. I just didn't expect it, but I always love a good rant. It's always a fun time. Just a quick mention. There was apparently a Lord of the Rings MMO that was being developed as well. That looks like it may potentially also be canceled. It was being co-developed with Embracer Group, which we did mention earlier. So we'll see what's actually happening with that. But that might also be on the chopping block.
Indeed. Now, one of the other things is that Amazon mentioned a shifting of focus to more casual and AI-focused games. And all I have to say personally is that AI, it ain't the play yet. It may get there one day. It may truly get there one day. But it's not there yet. And from the words of Greg Street, also known as Ghostcrawler, AI may one day accelerate game development, but it's not happening today. All of these layoffs are just to cut OpEx and make the stock prices go up. It will lead to empty portfolios for the next few years.
Yep. And that's operating expenses for anyone.
Yeah. He also goes on to say AI is better at music.
I mean, I don't know about that. I've seen some fun things, but I don't know about that quite yet.
True.
But in terms of, now here's the thing. I will say, and we can get into this more later, I actually have a bit of AI, a whole kind of document on different AI stuff we can get into one day. But just a quick mention, I do think there are instances in which AI in games could be really cool. I'm not going to get into those now, but we'll have that discussion at a later date. But I don't think replacing entire people's jobs is one of them, at least yet.
No.
And one last thing, Tomb Raider, which is being developed by Crystal Dynamics, is still in development. So supposedly they're sheltered from layoffs. which would make sense because they've made successful games. So we'll see. That's not always a guarantee nowadays. So, any last comments?
Nope.
Alrighty, and with that, we will move on to shop class. Alright, we're probably going to go through this one a little quicker, but we're going to head down to shop class, and we'll take a look at some of the tech tools, which will be another segment on the next generation Xbox that we just talked about. This one being a little bit more on the kind of conceptual side rather than the number side. But according to Windows Central and their sources, the next generation Xbox will be a Windows-based gaming device disguised as a console, combining Microsoft's entire Xbox console library with the full power of a Windows gaming PC rather than a traditional dedicated console. It'll run full Windows with a TV-optimized Xbox-style interface layered on top. And the design will draw inspiration from the current Xbox Ally handheld partnership with Asus, which is kind of serving as a testbed. And we did speculate that this might be the thing coming down. Supposedly, the out-of-box experience, users will have the option to remain entirely within the Xbox ecosystem without accessing Windows, which kind of mirrors the onboarding experience for traditional console users, with full Windows access available to those users who want to expand beyond that. I do think that is a smart decision if you're going to have a console PC hybrid, because the thing that I've always said about console is it is way simpler and easier and requires way less troubleshooting to get things working. So if they can capture that experience for the people that want it, while still allowing PC gamers to get their full experience, it would be a really good spot in the marketplace to be. It should supposedly give you access to Steam, the Epic Game Store, and Battle.net, even the Riot client, and other potential storefronts. Complete compatibility with any game that runs on Windows. So if you have a game that runs on Windows, I'll be interested to see if older games will work, including any of the PlayStation PC titles. It would be interesting to not only see Halo on PlayStation, but because you're running it through Steam, you could potentially see God of War and other PlayStation exclusives running on technically an Xbox. This also potentially means that a World of Warcraft could be playable on an Xbox. Any comment on that?
Man, so many comments. I don't want to dig too deep into it, but I'll hit some highlights. So, number one, I've talked about the add-on change where they're pulling back on combat add-ons. A lot of people are like, oh, they're doing this because of console, blah, 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 blah. They kind of proved us right. Right? At the end of the day, they're like, oh, yeah, look, here you go. On console, World of Warcraft, playable via Battle.net. Look, no one's surprised. Microsoft bought them. World of Warcraft was going to console. That was just going to happen. One of World of Warcraft's primary failures compared to Final Fantasy XIV is that it wasn't playable on consoles. It's not even, to my knowledge, fully compatible with a controller yet. And to my knowledge, I do not know of any news article, interview, or anything that has stated that World of Warcraft Midnight, the next expansion, is going to make the game fully controller compatible. There are mods, there are add-ons that will let it work, and you can rebind a bunch of stuff. But at the end of the day, if you can't install an add-on on this console PC hybrid that Xbox is trying to design, then it's just not gonna happen. Like, you're not going to be able to play it.
You can put in a keyboard and mouse.
Yes.
Onto an Xbox right now.
Is that going to be explicit when they go to purchase it on that console PC? When you launch the game, is there going to be some kind of, warning that says, do not play this with a controller, play this with a keyboard and mouse?
If it doesn't work, I feel like they'll figure it out pretty quick.
You're not wrong. But, I mean, I know, because I dig into the console commands a lot in WoW. Hunter things. I won't get into it. I know that there is a controller layout built into the console commands that you can activate. It sucks. That's all I'll say.
That's fair. Well, if it runs like a PC and has options for PC softwares, I imagine, especially because they own Blizzard, that they'll probably want to keep it up and running because it's just another avenue of revenue, right?
Yeah.
Especially for any World of Warcraft players that want something that's way more portable than a regular PC, but is beefier than a laptop. If it ends up being as we've kind of discussed, it would be a good option. So we'll see what happens. Just to add on to that, there are other things, because we talked about those extra programs being available, that apparently Office and Creative, the full Microsoft Creative Suite, will be compatible with this supposed Xbox, which is kind of wild to me. With other kind of legacy gaming content also available as well. Supposedly, did you have any comments for that?
Yeah, the Creative Suite being fully available, that means that art tablets are going to be
Yep.
able to be used. That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, it'll have to be a really good device with everything that's happened for me to have incentive to buy it. But if it's this really super portable, powerful gaming device that does all this extra stuff, I could see it finding a home in the market.
Me too. I definitely agree, especially because I didn't know about the Adobe Creative Cloud stuff.
Again, this is coming from Windows Central and their sources,
Fair.
so we'll see. But
They're usually pretty
supposedly
good.
that is what's going to happen. Yeah. Other optimizations, Microsoft would be optimizing it for both the Xbox and Windows teams, specifically for TV controller use, bringing Windows to the living room. However, just as we talked about with like the Asus handhelds, you can use all of those with, and this is my own guess, this isn't from the article, you can use kind of all the PC things that you would expect to use, especially when you're going through Steam. So that really doesn't necessarily make me think that you're not going to be able to use Steam stuff, especially when we just talked about other things being usable on this supposed gaming console. We'll see what happens. Microsoft is also developing specifically additional Windows overhead reduction technologies to benefit the gaming side of it. So, again, if it's a full Windows platform that gives you better gaming performance, it'll be interesting. We'll see. They'll be removing the multiplayer paywall, which to me sounds like Xbox Live and all that kind of stuff is going away. It's just going to be Game Pass because they do want to compete with Steam and Epic, which obviously doesn't have a multiplayer paywall. And for developer incentives, it'll be a 12% revenue share cut as opposed to Steam's 30%, which would obviously, again, be attractive to developers for publishing on specifically the Xbox ecosystem rather than a third-party Steam marketplace. Other incentives that you're going to see is that superior revenue split, and theoretically you could see maybe PlayStation putting their own app on the Xbox rather than having to go through Steam to get it. Because if PlayStation games through Steam are going to be available on Xbox anyways, why not get your cut down to 12% rather than 30% on Steam, which could be interesting. There is an Xbox Partner Preview Showcase coming up this month in November. So maybe we'll see some extra announcements there because, again, from last course, it's supposed to come out in 2027. So yeah, it's not that far off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see people being developers and publishers trying to limit where they're putting games. Microsoft would have to put out a buttload of money to keep someone on just their platform, right? Steam has way too big of an audience. Like 12% just, 18% just not enough.
I mean, you're not wrong, but if you're PlayStation and you know you're going to come to PC anyways, what if you try to get a few sales beforehand and delay the PC release and put it out on the Xbox PC console for 6-month exclusivity?
I don't even. Well, I
See
mean,
how
we
many
don't even
sales
know
you
if
can
that's
get,
how
and
that's
then
going to
drop it
work,
on
right?
Steam.
Like, we have no idea if that's how
It's
it's
just
going
an
to work.
idea. Like, if, because the idea is that it would be open, so PlayStation could develop their own
Mhm.
PC PlayStation app, right, that they sell their games on. So in theory, you could create their own PlayStation PC app and retain 100% of the money.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, because then PC they could look at it and say, "Hey, PC people, if you want to, if you want it, here you go, but gotta get it through our stuff." But yeah, so we'll see. Again, all speculation, just more of an additive to what we talked about last week. Any other comments on this?
Nope.
Alrighty. With that, we will move to the final-ish segment, free period. All right, free period is what we're hitting now, and it's basically anything that grabs our interest, as we've talked about before. Now, this could really go into business and econ, but as you've already experienced, it's already a longer segment this week. So, put it in its own segment, because I think it deserves its own segment. But for anyone who's not familiar with the Counter-Strike skin scene, it went through a major upheaval this last week when Valve fundamentally changed the way that some of the higher skins operate and basically crashed the whole skin economy. So, for anyone not in the know, there's different tiers of items that come from essentially loot boxes. They're called cases. You open them with a $2.50 key, which you have to initially buy from Valve, but you can trade those keys. And then the highest tier items you previously could not trade up to. And they were very low percentages. You're talking like under 0.5%, sometimes like 0.26% for a super rare drop. And even though Counter-Strike had a trade-up system where you could bring together 10 skins and then sacrifice those 10 skins to get a higher tier skin, which would be based off of a percentage random choice from the collections of the skins you submitted, you couldn't do that with that super high tier stuff. So you could only get it from the cases, which would make those items be super valuable. You're talking anywhere from a few $100s to tens of thousands of dollars. Like obscene amounts of money. There were some unique ones that could get, $250,000, but most of them were, in that $10,000 range for the super rare stuff. You couldn't trade up for it. The only way you could get it was from opening the box, which again, very low percentage of getting. Now, what ended up happening, because there are Steam trade limits, is third-party sellers basically facilitated all of these exchanges. So you would go outside the Valve ecosystem, outside of Steam, and third-party websites, you would sell these skins on those websites where the money would be exchanged, and then the skins would be traded on Valve, on Steam, rather than anywhere else, because you still had to get it to the person, but the money exchanged hands elsewhere, meaning Valve wasn't getting a cut of any of that money. Now, we can talk about speculation later, but what ended up happening is Valve put out an update that allowed you to trade up for those super high tier skins. Now, before the update, the CS2 skin market capitalization was at $6 billion, meaning all of the assets and things that were out there were valued at $6 billion in total. After the update, within 10 hours, they lopped off $2 billion in value. And eventually it would crash down to around $3 billion, and that's from like Price Empire and other websites that report on that type of stuff. So in about 24 to 48 hours, it lost about half. All the skins on the market lost about half of their value, which is insane. So we're talking about that really high-end stuff like knives, gloves, the things that you could only get on that super low percentage, all went from tens of thousands of dollars. For example, a knife that before the update would sell for 14 grand, its price dropped by almost 50% within hours of that update. And some knives even valued at, and I say more affordable with air quotes, $1,300 dropped down to $200. So major plummet from this update. The reverse of that is some of those red skins. That was the final tier that was the final tier you could trade up to. So previously you couldn't go past the red tier skins. So a lot of them were a lower value, except a lot of the lower desirable ones, because that was it. That was the last stop. You couldn't use them in trade-up contracts. But because you could now use those in trade-up contracts to get knives and gloves, some of them increased by, like 10 times the amount, some even higher than that. You saw skins going for $2 that ended up going for $20, even skins that were going for $5 to $10 that ended up going for hundreds of dollars because they were now being used as crafting material for that higher end stuff. So I saw a video of a Counter-Strike pro player, and this even happened to a major Counter-Strike streamer, OniPixel, but the pro player looked at his the value of his entire Steam inventory, which a lot of these third-party websites with plugins would calculate the value for all the skins. This pro player, his entire Steam inventory had a value of $59,000. And after the update, 24 hours later, it was worth 18 grand. So
damn.
Yeah. So he lost a lot of money, and keep in mind, not all of these pros are worth millions of dollars, right? So some of this could be kind of devastating to quite a few people. Even some players who got lucky with knives and skins were reporting losing thousands of dollars on just some of their single high tier skins that they had, and it's just brutal to a lot of these people. I think the biggest thing, though, is because of how much money was involved here, there was an actual investor market, essentially. And a lot of these people who had actual portfolios of skins, so they would trade and sell on highs and lows, just like you would a regular stock market, lost, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And unfortunately, this obviously led to some mental health complications. And so even the subreddits that deal with CS skins and trading had to start posting mental health hotline numbers because people were threatening to kill themselves. And in quite a few cases, it seemed like some people actually did. There is a lot of trading of skins that came out of China, and there are quite a few creators and investors in China that ended up, unfortunately, self-deleting. So it ended up being a pretty bad case at some point with a lot of people who had money involved. So if anyone's having any sort of mental health issues out there, I feel like I can safely say that we recommend that you do get some help, and that it's never worth it to hit that final backspace button. So any issues that you may be having now with money, there are resolutions that you can go through to get through it. So please, anyone, make sure you go get the help that you need, and you seek out that assistance, because it's never the end.
Agreed.
That sad note aside, a lot of excited players, or a lot of casual players, ended up being excited because there were a lot of players who had those red skins that ended up making a lot of money because they were just sitting in their inventory. And a lot of people that couldn't afford skins because, again, how many gamers are going to spend $1,000 on a skin, unless you're playing Elite Dangerous. Well, those are actual ships. But point being, there's not a lot of gamers out there that necessarily can spend the thousands of dollars on skins. So with a lot of these prices coming down, people could actually afford a lot of these rare, higher tier skins than they couldn't before, which I do think is kind of the point of a game, is people being able to afford stuff. And yeah, there's a continue.
Look, sad note aside, like you said, I don't know that I can recommend putting your life savings into playing a game marketplace for real money.
No.
The same thing happened with Diablo 3. Do you remember the real money auction house for Diablo 3?
I do remember the stories at the time, yeah.
Yep, exactly. There are people who literally bought houses off of the real money auction house of Diablo 3. And a game can change
there are
at
players
any
who
moment.
Made millions.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the skin market for CS, absolutely.
Would it be great to be able to actually just grind infinitely and make real money in real life? Sure. But a game can change at any moment.
Yeah.
It can change at any moment. They can make any update they want.
Yes. Just like Diablo, the problem is that the market is at the behest of a single company.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that company decides that their goodwill is over, or that they don't like a way that something's operating, or they don't believe that they're making enough money because none of the high tier skins are being sold through their system, then they can make any changes they want. And while obviously in the regular world, the stock market itself has its own ups and downs and risks and can be volatile as well, the problem is that generally it is not controlled by a single corporation or even a single country, although they obviously have a lot of influence. And in this case, the company in charge decided to make a change and it crashed the whole thing. And things lost a lot of value that don't have intrinsic value in and of themselves, other than the fact that they were rare. So, yeah, even though I personally do like sticker trading on Steam,
sure,
it's not something that I've ever put enough money that I couldn't afford to lose into.
Yeah. Oh, and that's you're gambling, right? That
100%.
It's effectively gambling, because like gambling, especially in a casino, the house always wins. Always.
Yeah, and if the house isn't, and in this case, if the house isn't making enough money, they can change the rules to make sure they win.
Correct. Yeah, that's just kind of the reality. I don't know that I don't even like this as a reality, right? I've known about this for a long time because I've known you for a long time, and I know we've talked about this.
I've been a part of it, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I've always hated it. I am not a fan of loot boxes in general, even if they are purely cosmetic, because it is extremely addictive to people. And
100%.
Look, the mental health aspects of it, and putting aside the change that cost people thousands upon thousands of dollars, right? Putting that change aside, how many people needed to put in that same amount of money just to even get the skin in the first place? Because if your goal was, I'm going to put $1,000 into keys and boxes. I don't know if you had to buy boxes, I'm guessing.
You could get them at drops, but if you're putting $1,000 in, you're buying boxes. You can't get enough boxes.
Yeah, fair enough.
To get that amount. So
if you're putting in $1,000 to buy keys and boxes, and you're expecting to turn a profit, which many people do,
but most
you're gambling.
You're
just gambling. The extent of my gambling at this point is procs in World of Warcraft. I refuse to gamble with my money. It's just not worth it.
I mean, look at any CS skin streamer, which there are a bunch who are directly sponsored by actual gaming websites. That's a whole different discussion. But a lot of them will do compilation videos of opening cases. And while there are quite a few that open cases and make money, if you look at their catalogs as a whole, they don't really make money on the whole. spend way more money on opening the cases, buying the keys, than they ever really make back in the long run. But it doesn't matter because what they do is make money off of the video and then the following and the Twitch and all of that stuff. So it's not really about making money on the cases for them, which I think a lot of people lose when they're watching that kind of stuff because they only see, the victories and remember the victories. But yes, to your point, it is gambling, and more often than not, you lose money, especially on the percentages that we're talking about for those skins.
Mm-hmm. Now,
And,
on top of that,
sorry, continue.
On top of that, the fact that Steam wasn't even making, or Valve wasn't making any money off of these transactions, I'm amazed.
Well, the high-end ones.
Yeah, for
because they
sure.
do take a cut on all the sales that are on Steam,
Right.
But it's up to like a 2,000 limit. So anything that was worth over 2,000 was being traded on a third-party site.
But could you just trade it for 1 cent on the Valve site?
Well, so you could sell it for 1 cent. Well, there's a limit because of Valve's cut, but you could sell it for a low, very, very, very low amount. But it doesn't make sense to do that because you can't guarantee who you're selling it to. Because it goes onto a marketplace and you can put in buy orders. So you can't guarantee who you're selling it to, only that you are selling it. So trades are the way that it happens because you sell it on a third-party website and then that person has their Steam profile associated with that website, and the platform usually generates a trade automatically that is sent to your account through plugins, and then you confirm the trade on your end and the trade goes through.
Okay, so Steam or Valve could have done a couple of different things, and I'm just going to rattle them off real quick.
Go for it.
Number one, they could have removed that limit. That probably would have solved a lot of the problem, like the $2,000 limit. Number two, they could have disabled the API that allowed for third-party sites to create trades.
Yep.
And number three, they could have done this, which is what they did.
I think a couple reasons. I think there's probably some tax reasons that they don't want to increase the purchasing limit. Stay out of that. I do think that they understand the third-party trading on a whole brings more interest to the game than the money they lose. So I do think that they understand by not 100% restricting it to Valve because I do think a lot of the mass amount of regular people will just buy and sell skins on the Steam marketplace.
Sure.
So I think they understand that it brings attraction and interest and all kinds of media coverage outside by having those third-party websites. So I think they understand that they don't want to get rid of them. I do think that they understood that the money was getting ridiculous that was costing for some of these skins, and that they definitely weren't making $0 of any of that. And so I personally think there's a couple of reasons they chose this route specifically. One, I think they may be looking at getting rid of loot boxes. And if that's the case, then they would need a way for people to get the high-end skins without the loot boxes. So if they're going to do drops for skins and then you can trade up for higher tier stuff, that would make sense to me for why they would make part of this change. I think the other portion of it is that, especially in China, and a few other places, because of how much money these skins were worth, they were being used for asset hiding and money laundering. And so by crashing the value and showing that they can change it at any point in time, it makes it a less attractive option for that. And on top of that, by bringing down these numbers, even though third-party websites are still going to be the way to go for this high-end stuff, it does bring quite a few of the items back to the platform in terms of making sense for trading, even though for most people they'll still do it on the third-party websites because of the cut difference that Steam or Valve takes versus the third-party website. But it brings down the price enough that a lot of people will start selling them on Steam.
That's fair.
But yeah, so crazy transaction, huge change, lots of money lost. Some people gained some money, as they always do. It is not a stock market portfolio. If you don't have the money to lose, do not invest it in a digital item controlled by a single entity. Please do not.
Yep.
Spend your, learn how to, trade on the stock market and do that instead, even though, again, you're not guaranteed to make the money. But yeah, so I think that's kind of where I end with that. To be honest with you, I had a couple items that were affected, but I never traded in the tens of thousands of dollar items.
Right.
I think I had like a $700 item that lost like 150 in value. But my stickers weren't affected, so I'm still way up. So but that could obviously change at any point in time, as we just saw. Maybe they'll make sticker trade-ups.
This man is sticker rich.
Well, I will say it's been a long time since I've bought a game on Steam with money.
Yeah.
Because whenever I need a game, I just sell a sticker. But
Wild.
Yeah, I mean, I've bought games on Steam. Anything big, I can sell a sticker. But yeah, it could change at any point in time. But again, if it went away tomorrow, I am not in a bad spot. I would be losing out on a chunk of money, but I am not in a bad spot, and I can afford to do it. So if you can't afford to do it, don't do it.
I'm sitting here thinking of like one of my games equivalent, right? And the only one that I can think of is League of Legends. And I think they would just lose all of their player base if they ever tried to implement this kind of a system.
Well, I think that's why they did it this specific way, because trade-ups are already in the game. Right? Like, that's not a new thing that they added. They just made trade-ups to this higher tier possible when it previously wasn't. And I agree with you. I think if they got rid of the skin market entirely, I think CS would cease to be as popular as it does. I mean, fashion statements as a whole for society is a huge thing. And just like with League of Legends skins, if there wasn't a rarity to a lot of these skins, like if that just fully went away, because again, you can only do so many trade-ups on the market because the supply of the trade-ups is still limited. They didn't increase the supply, right?
Yeah.
So there will be an influx of the higher super rare stuff, but that will still stabilize at some point. So there are still things that are very rare, and I think that brings a lot of interest to the game. People play the game, they see somebody with a rare skin, it's a jealousy type of thing. I really want that thing, so you try to get something that makes you happy. Like, it's a whole cyclical thing that happens, right? I mean, would Pokemon cards be as sought after as they are if there were no super rare ones to be found that could get PSA graded?
Probably not.
No, like that's the thing, right? It adds incentive. And even though there is a game to play for CS and there is a healthy competitive scene, just watching the pros and all the different skins that they have and the super rare skins they have, it's its own thing. So they can't get rid of it either. I do think that they made this change to heavily modify it, but I don't think that their plan is to get rid of it.
On that note, if you have your entire life saving in Pokemon cards or Magic cards, don't do that either.
But, everyone knows all nostalgia things always keep their value.
Sure.
That's why I know people that still have Beanie Babies.
Same. Wow.
Of course I jest. But at least with Pokemon and Magic cards, there is a physical item that can't be revoked.
No, but they can print more of it.
They can absolutely print more of it. They can
just take that.
It still won't be a first generation printing. So there is still some safety baked in. I'm not trying to dissuade people from your point. I am just pointing out that it is still a better investment than a digital item.
Barely.
Still don't do it, but it is at least a physical item that you have.
Anyways.
But, I don't have any other comments on that. But before we kind of get into the ending here, I don't want to put this in its own segment. I do just want to mention that the Battlefield 6 BR update, or Season 1 update, along with the Battlefield 6 free BR came out. I've played it a little bit. The Red Sec mode seems fun. It's interesting because it takes the battlefield destruction and applies it to a BR mode, which is unique and fun. And you can get vehicles through missions. So it is a new wrinkle in the system for a BR when the last person on the field has a tank. So, now, you can have rockets and other types of things, and you can destroy it. It's not like they're the end-all, be-all, and it's an automatic win button, though it does help a lot. I do think it puts a Battlefield 6 Battle Royale in a unique place in the market rather than just the same copy-paste type of stuff. We'll see in the long run if it's worth it. They did also add a Gauntlet game mode, which I actually have been enjoying a lot from the 5 or 6 times I've played it. Where, now follow along with me, you play 4 mini games, essentially mini rounds, with your single 4-person squad. You start with 8 squads, and after each game mode round, the bottom 2 squads drop off until the last match is a 1v1. And there are about 6 different game types, things like King of the Hill or Hold the Data, which is kind of like the skull mode in Halo where you hold onto the skull and get points. There's Occupy Territories. So there's a bunch of different little unique game modes for each round. I think there's like 6, even though there's only 4 per game. So I did find it an interesting tactical, almost like mini tournament style game mode, which I thought was a lot of fun.
It's basically like a Swiss stage almost.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. If it's still as fun as it is the first few times I played it, I would love to see him add it permanently. But as I play more of both, I can talk about it more. New weapons and maps were added as well. So there's a lot to enjoy 2 weeks out from its release. So I'm glad that they're putting out content for it. As I play more, I'll let you know. Any final comments?
Yeah, I have a question for you. What is the rock, paper, scissors equivalent for Battlefield 6? I know it's like sledgehammer, tank, but what's the third one?
for like destroying vehicles? Is that the goal?
Yeah. Like tank beats this, but this beats sledgehammer, sledgehammer beats tank.
So there's not really a rock, paper, scissors. It's the tank can easily kill you. Well, I would say it's like a kind of like ants versus something else type of thing, right? Where a larger creature can easily kill the ants, but you get enough ants and they sting, and it will take down the bigger creature. So if you have enough people, or at least have a few well placed anti-tank rockets, or even just some mines that are down, or maybe you're a sneaky recon and you walk up to the tank that's not paying attention and just slap a bunch of C4 on its ass and then run away laughing while you click the button. There are ways to definitely kill that tank. And as you mentioned, you could kill it with a sledgehammer. It takes quite a few hits, which is its own ridiculous thing. So it's basically like, I hope the tank doesn't see me to instantly delete me, but if I can pop up and down and play a game of whack-a-mole, I can definitely take it out. So, I made the mistake of sitting on the side of a hill with one in the BR and just having fun wrecking people, and then was not paying attention and got hit by 2 different teams at once with rockets, and we went pretty quick.
Oof.
Yeah, it was still a good time, even though I died. But so, unique place. Having vehicles in a BR, I think, is not something, unless you can think of a situation that I've really seen.
I know Fortnite has had a couple of they basic
had, the
ones, but they haven't had combat vehicles, right? Like, not really.
I don't remember. Yeah,
not that I know.
If they have, let us know. But I don't remember it being there.
Me neither.
All right. Well. Let's kind of end it there then. I don't think we really have much more to talk about. Not that we really have much more time to talk about it.
Right.
So, alrighty. All right. With that, people, go ahead and close those books and pack those bags. That's all we have time for this week. We hope you enjoy your time off. Look forward to your participation in the next time. Peace.
See you.